Hello and welcome back to the channel once again. This is Lealan Presents. I am Alan and this is my co-host, Leanne.
Hello.
It is October, or should I say Spooktober, and we are fans of horror films, horror movies themselves. Regardless of what time of year it is, we'll watch them anywhere, anytime, as much as we can, and as often as we can. As such, we decided to create something to do with that theme for this year's Halloween, which is coming up in, I think, about 2 weeks' time, or just over 2 weeks' time, as we're recording this. And we were going to watch, try and get to one for each day of October, and time restraints, and we just didn't get around to that. So the next best thing we thought we could do is to sort of have a look at the quality, shall we say, of horror films that have come out in 2022.
There's a lot that came out.
There was a lot. We kind of went through this list on IMDb of horror films that come out this year, and we kind of cherry picked particular ones that kind of caught our eye and kind of interested us. Like, okay, let's see what this is about and so forth.
Tried to cover the range of the many different horror genres that exist.
Yeah, so
and
many.
Everything in between.
And everything in between. Yeah. So that's what this is. We've taken 16 different horror movies that were released this year. And we're going to just preface this briefly. We're not reviewers. We're not critics. We're not students of filmmaking or anything of that sort.
This is entirely based on opinion.
This is just our thoughts of the film, what we felt worked, what we felt didn't. Now, we're not going to go in and critique every nitpicky little thing, because that's not what we're aiming to do here. The point of doing this is to see what we think is the horror film that we enjoyed the most. I don't say best, because that's the horror film that we've enjoyed the most that has come out thus far in the year of 2022. Now that obviously encompasses January through October. That's going to encompass massive titles like Halloween and Hellraiser, which have had releases this year. So it's going to cover some lesser known ones, films like Incantation, which we'll talk about later on. Studio 666, which we'll talk about in a brief moment, and other sort of lesser known ones as well. So it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Everyone has a different sort of opinion on horror movies. Some people obviously hate them, which is fine, and some people we prefer different things within horror movies that make them a good horror movie. Some people love a jump scare, some people love the tension, some people just love to have a bit of a laugh. So even our opinions from each other are going to differ. Yeah. And that's fine. But we're going to work out between us what we think collectively is our top.
So, I'm a bit older than Leanne, and I've been watching horror probably most of my life, whereas Leanne hasn't really.
I dabbled.
And dipping that toe in.
Dipped that toe in. Always felt like I didn't like horror, but was sort of intrigued by it at the same time. And then after meeting you... Yep, there we go. It's good stuff.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about 8 films. This is going to be a 3-part series, okay? 8 films in this particular part, then the next 8 films, and then the last one will be all about the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and then the finals. We'll be sort of comparing what we felt worked in different movies in the matchups against each other and which one we preferred and so on. Yes. And then hopefully at the end of this, we'll come to a nice understanding of between us of
Fight.
of what we felt is the our most enjoyable film horror movie of the year, because there is 2 of us, that might make it a bit awkward if there's a bit of a clash off, but we have a thought process in mind as to how we're gonna
break some ties,
sort this out. So let's get into the first 8. So what we've done is we're watching them in the order of release. So the films come out January, February, March. So whatever they come out first, boom, boom, boom. That's how we're kind of watching them down in the line like that. So the first movie that came out this year that was a horror movie was the sequel / soft reboot of Scream. This was released on the 14th of January. It was directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, and stars Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette. And the runtime is 1 hour and 54 minutes. It's a bit awkward. I don't say awkward. That's not the right word. It can be a bit hit and miss with a runtime of a horror film because sometimes they're a bit overly long, but then other times they're overly short, and it kind of leaves you wanting more.
Yeah.
You know. How do you feel about the runtime of this one?
I think it worked. I think they had a good flow to the movie, so it didn't feel like it should have ended ages ago. I think they did well to keep it well paced through it. Yeah, I think it was okay.
Yeah, it was well paced. Yeah. I feel it might have run a bit too long, but nothing like, I'm so bored. I think just some of the scenes kind of maybe dragged out a bit too much.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I could see that.
So we're gonna go through 6 categories through all of the movies that we're talking about, and that's spook/gore factor, story, sound, acting, villain, and visuals. Do you want to take us away on this one again?
Okay, so we'll start with the spook or gore factor. If there's a slightly different, I feel like, with Scream, because there's been many Scream films already.
This is the 5th one.
So you sort of know exactly what to expect, and we're expecting gore,
stabs,
and jump scares.
Stabs.
Lots of stabs. There was I felt like there wasn't as much gore as I expected in this one.
Yeah, for a slasher flick. Slasher being a subgenre, for those who might be tuning into this and not really seen many horror movies, slasher is a subgenre of horror.
Yeah, also not as many jump scares as I'd expected.
Yeah.
But it was fine.
But like a slasher like Friday the 13th, it's usually got oodles and oodles of gore because it's someone literally killing people.
Yeah, but there was definitely some, but it wasn't as sort of blood spurting everywhere and seeing like guts and gore and stuff as I'd originally expected.
There was that one where the knife went into that person's neck, and I can't remember who it was, and it kind of went right into the side of that tissue, and it came out the other side, and that looked
really
brutal. Good. I was like, whoa, okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. They did keep tension, which is a big part of the scare factor in a horror movie, which was great, but partly because we know what to expect from a Scream movie, and they did keep quite close to the formula.
Yeah.
It's
gotta keep to the rules.
It did take the tension down a bit because you sort of knew what to expect and what kind of things were coming. But I think it's part of the Scream movies as well that they're so self-referential. If you didn't know what was coming, then it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, I think the tension was decent. There was a few good fake outs, like when the guy's in the cupboard, he opens the door and it's blocking off the back of the background. He shuts it, and you're expecting someone to be there, and there wasn't. And then he goes to the fridge and it's like, well, there's got to be this one, and there's no one there. And it's like, okay, cool. They're kind of faking you out, which is kind of cool, because that's a bit of an overdone trope.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of irks me a little bit. So that was quite nice with that. The one thing I did feel that killed the tension and the spook factor was that app. When he's looking, he was looking for her? Yeah, he was looking for his girlfriend. And they had that app up. And it was almost like, it was like a tracker, like a find my phone, kind of find my on Apple.
Find my friends, yeah.
Yeah. And it just looked janky, and it doesn't work to that effect, and there's no way it would be that precise. Oh, you are 2 foot away from this person. That is not quite how it works.
It does have the signals, right?
I felt that kind of pulled me out of it a little bit, and I kind of that did kind of kill it for me a little bit.
Fair enough. Okay, next category was the story. There's some bits that I loved with the self-referential stuff and the almost, not quite, but almost breaking the fourth wall. So it opens with what looks like the opening of a Scream movie, and it's a trailer for Stab, which is the in-movie movie.
Was that Stab 6?
And then it cuts to 2 people watching this trailer and be like, oh, it's just another Stab movie. And it turns out that's a trailer for the next Stab 7, movie. Yeah. And it sort of left you thinking, well, are we now still watching?
It's like Inception, yeah. So you watch Inception and you're like, huh?
So that was so fun. And always like with the horror movie rules, and now obviously within the movie universe, they've got the Stab movies that they can refer to as, well, in this happened, so we need to do something different. It's not often that the horror cliches in a horror movie make it what it should be. And this is sort of the only one that they're going to get away with it, I think. It's using the cliches as a story tool. It was like the original, but it still managed to feel refreshed.
Yeah, something new.
Which is, I think they did really well.
Yeah.
Making it something new while keeping it something old.
And so that kind of leads into the almost soft reboot, which it wasn't, because they referenced Scream 4.
Yes.
And this is a sequel to that. And obviously all the other characters are sort of established, like Dewey and Courtney Cox's character and Sydney. And they're obviously a bit older.
Yeah.
And wiser, you might say. You know, they've been there a few times and they're like, oh, well, we're not going to fall into the same traps, Mona.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the ones that did get me is Tara, the little girl, the sister that got attacked in the beginning.
Yeah.
She's in the hospital, and she has to get into this wheelchair, and she's on a drip, and she's trying to wheel herself, and she's in so much pain, and she can barely do that.
Yeah, because she's got a knife through the hand or something, didn't she? So she's trying to wheel it with. Yeah. So there's blood and.
But she had all the knives in the back, I suppose, why she can't walk properly and that. So then they kind of we need to. The killer goes to the hospital. And the son gets stopped, and I like that fact is that they learned from that as well, because the killer had a bulletproof vest on. We'll cover that in a minute, because I think that comes under villain, because that's the evolution of that. But then they sort of save the girl, and they go back to the hospital room. They grab her stuff, and they're like, right, let's get out of here, and they start driving away. And then she's like, oh, I haven't got my asthma pump. So then they go to this party, and she starts walking perfectly fine.
It didn't even occur to me.
No painkillers can do that. If you've got damage to your back because you've been stabbed in it,
any painkillers that
no painkillers would do that.
Would knock you out.
And she's on a drip in the hospital.
Yeah, I hadn't even.
That bugged the hell out of me.
I'm not going to change my scores, but
No. But that's part of my thing where I tend to notice again, not like a critic, not like a reviewer, but I do sometimes notice the stupid things, which are like, huh? No.
Pulls you out of it.
It did. But again, in the total finality of it, when they revealed the motive, I thought that was great.
Yes, the twist.
Yeah.
You know there's going to be a twist in a Scream movie, but I didn't quite see that one coming until very close to the end. Yeah. Where all the threads are pulling together.
Yeah. But the twist one thing, but then when you learn the motive, it's kind of like a middle finger to the keyboard warriors, the internet trolls, and all that. Just let people I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan. That's no secret. I have Gandalf tattooed on me. I have the Martha Sauron tattooed on me. And we've been really enjoying Rings of Power.
Yeah.
But the amount of hate and toxicity that people have been throwing at that show.
Just let people make the thing.
Just let the people make them. Don't be so. What's what I'm looking for? Quick to judge.
It's a bit gatekeepery, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's like, oh, well, Tolkien will be rolling his grave, blah, blah. No, he probably wouldn't, because he's probably happy that people will watch this and go, I want to know more. Let's go and actually read the works, And, oh, well, they're changing this, they're changing that. Well, they've never said that they can use the books that you're referencing, because they can't. That's the whole... And it's that, and that's kind of where the motive came from. Just let people enjoy what they want to enjoy.
Yeah.
And
no need to keep...
Ridiculous.
All right then, should we move to sound?
Unless you got anything else.
I don't.
It was good that it came full circle at the end of the story as well.
Yeah.
Because it was the original house.
Yeah,
from
that's
the first
very
Scream,
true.
Which is pretty cool.
Are there going to be more? There probably
I think they are. I think they have announced there's going to be another one. Scream 6. Okay, off to you.
Okay. I didn't really feel like the sound was anything special.
No, I didn't.
They did have the obvious jump scare and fake jump scare stingers, so the music builds and then either it just falls down when nothing happens or a big bash when something does. Apart from that, there wasn't really. It was your standard horror movie tension music.
Yeah.
Nothing special.
In terms of the sound, I was listening to the sound effects as well.
Yeah.
Whilst there was, as you said, there's nothing really remarkable. It's this kind of standard par for the course.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with it.
No. But there was nothing
outstanding.
Nothing stood out.
Okay. Acting. A little bit hammy.
In places,
cheesy.
yeah.
But it's a Scream movie. It's gonna be.
I mean, you've got the established actors. You've got Neve Campbell. You've got Courtney Cox. You've got David Arquette. They're the three veterans, as it were.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them were pretty much unknowns.
Yeah, they're just kids doing a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, I put overall really good.
Mm.
Apart from the crying scene at the hospital.
Yeah.
Because that was just awful and it fell flat. It's like, oh, what? No. If you can't cry, don't. Just don't.
You tried. So I think the difference between like a B movie with terrible acting and a Scream movie with hammy acting is that it's part of it.
Yeah, a B movie is meant to be horrid, yeah.
Yeah, and it's meant to be over the top in a Scream film because it's playing into the tropes and the cliches. So I can forgive it for being cheesy because it's meant to be.
And it kind of does run with that tongue-in-cheek kind of...
Yeah, I think so. A villain?
Mm-hmm.
Keeps you guessing right till the end. So
as always, yeah.
Always know that the villain is Ghostface, but you never know who's behind the mask. It could be anyone, and they played into that by having them all in a room at one point and being like, it could be you. Yeah. It could be
Which
you.
is really cool, yeah.
Yeah, so it sort of establishes that no one really knows what's going on. They're in the same boat as the audience, pretty much. So some horror movies, it depends on, in any sort of mystery thing, it's either the audience and the characters are in the dark, or the audience knows but the characters don't. Yeah. It's an interesting choice which one to go for. Right? But for a horror movie, I feel like the audience has to be in the dark. Yeah.
It's like Saw. You watch Saw, and there's so much like what's going on. There's so much confusion. Confusion is not really the right word, but there's so many questions, and you don't really know what's going on. And there's these two guys locked in the basement, and there's stuff going on the outside. And it's like, whoa, and then in that last sort of 5 minutes, it all just click, 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 click into place. And it's like, whoa. And that's kind of what you want for something like this.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember sitting in the cinema watching the first Saw film with my friend, Don. And my God, I was blown away when that twist again. And we were just like, what? That's fantastic.
I found the motive... Although, like we said, it's sort of speaking to the world, which is the breaking the fourth wall as well. They're always a little bit, would they really do that for that motive? But I've written they crazy, so... yeah.
Well, she was a bit.
She was crazy. That's how they get away with it in the Scream movies. Like, they're doing it because they want to make a movie. It's fine, because they're a bit loopy, so...
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's my stuff on villains.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, they were learning from the previous movies. Like, if Ghostface gets shot and it takes it in the shoulder and it's like, I'm bleeding everywhere. This one gets shot, like, I think it's like 6 rounds in the chest and goes flying back through a cabinet. And it's like, right, they're not dead. How are they not dead? They probably got a bulletproof vest on. And they did. And it was like, oh, there we go. They're actually learning. And they kind of... It's an evolution almost, that kind of, where it's the previous ones clearly didn't learn from that. But this one's like, hey, guess what? I got a bulletproof vest.
They watch the Stab movies. They learn from them.
And yeah, this is basically this is the same look for Ghostface. But if it isn't broke, you don't need to fix it.
Yeah, no. And
so
it's part of the...
Everyone recognises Ghostface. Whether or not you've seen Scream, or you've seen Scary Movie, or anything else that references Ghostface, you know Ghostface. Yeah. Because it's a pop culture icon almost.
I think if they did change the look of Ghostface, it would ruin the self-referential aspect of it. So yeah. Good stuff. Visuals. Yep. Really good camera work and effects in this.
Yeah.
Not all the effects were great.
No.
I think there was a bit where one of the characters was on fire and it looked, so bad.
That was a bit odd.
But for the most part, a really good job.
Yeah,
made it almost believable.
Yeah. Better than the last movie.
Yeah.
Is what I've put, respectfully so. The Tara getting her leg broken at the beginning was brutal.
Yeah.
Just kind of stamps on her leg and just snaps her leg. That looked horrid. Oh, that made me cringe. And the knife through the hand as well.
Yeah, that was good.
We did watch Scream 4 prior to this one to catch up on that, and I might be mixing up with this, but there's a part with the defibrillator. The defibrillator? Was that in Scream 4? I'm starting to think it was in Scream 4.
I don't know, I can't remember. Because obviously they were in the hospital in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I think it was after the killer was revealed. Yeah, because it was your cousin. I'm thinking Scream 4, so yeah, defibrillator. Okay. But other than, I mean, all the sort of the gore effects that did come into play, they look pretty cool.
Yeah.
But again, there was nothing, as you say, the fire looked janky. There was nothing particularly, oh wow, that's great. Like, you know, I think it was in the first one where she gets trapped in the dog flap in the garage door and it goes up, and then that looked brutal, you know. And there was nothing too much to that effect. It was quite a standard sort of I think they played this a bit safe.
Yeah, quite possibly.
And I think they probably could have thought a little bit more outside the box and did something a little bit extra with some of the effects with the gore on that. But hey, is what it is.
That's Scream.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
That was Scream from 2022. Mm-hmm.
Nice one.
Cool.
Where are we going next?
The next movie, released on the 25th of February 2022, is Studio 666. Directed by B.J. McDonnell, and the main actors were David Grohl and the Foo Fighters, and Whitney Cummings, and the runtime was 1 hour and 46 minutes long.
Oh boy.
Is it bad to say that this is 1 hour and 46 minutes I'm never getting back in my life?
Oh. Where to start? This one is what you would expect from a band making a horror movie. That says it all, really.
See, after seeing this, I kind of want Slipknot to just go, all right, let's make a horror movie and just crush it. Just absolutely nail it.
Yeah. I mean,
Au revoir.
Imagine, that would be off.
Well, I think Lordi actually did one, thinking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Lordi made a horror film years ago.
Oh, I'll have to look that up.
I can't remember what it was called. I thought it didn't.
Alright, so going into spook/gore factor. There was gore right from the start.
Yeah.
You immediately get a kill, which sort of set the tone.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, this is going to be good.
Yeah. It did then turn into gore for gore's sake.
Yeah.
Which, it sort of ruins it a bit, I think. There was a lot of it.
Yeah.
A lot of gore. So if you're into that, then great. There were a couple of jump scares as well, but they weren't like satisfying jump scares. It was like made you feel a bit silly for jumping sort of ones.
Like Leanne does jump at things.
jumpy.
I don't. They just don't affect me. I'm just like stoic. I'm like, whatever. But yeah, you kind of, I think you jump a couple times and you're like,
yeah.
Afterwards, like, oh, probably.
Just like almost like fake out jump scares, so there'll be a jump scare and it'll be actually a friendly character that's just come around the corner rather than
or like when the estate agent goes in, there's a dead body there and it's actually just one of the Foo Fighters laying on the kitchen floor because that's where he sleeps. Huh?
We'll get into that later. So anything you want to say on how scary this film was?
Wasn't scary in my mind. In terms of the gore factor, the one member of the band that got his face barbecued, that looked pretty cool.
That did look pretty cool.
And when the other one was having sex with the woman and that chainsaw comes right up through her face. Yeah. And I can imagine that being in 3D and just being like, whoa, because that's the kind of top-down angle you're looking at this woman's face and this punches straight through and then he obviously cuts them both in half and it's like, wow. The one that kind of did kill it for me in a sense was, you see Kerry King and I'm like, wait, that's Kerry King of Slayer.
Oh, yeah.
In this film. What is going on? And he's there for like 5 minutes, then he gets electrocuted, but the electrocution effect looked like ass.
Yeah, it's like, if someone's getting electrocuted, you can't actually see the electricity.
Yeah.
But you could on this.
Laying on the floor and he's like jerking around like this, which, that's kind of what you expect, I guess, when you're having like electricity. But then you've got, as you say, those blue lines flowing through and it's just like...
Yeah, ruined it. The other one that I was like, what? Was when they were trying to start the van. So you had one underneath, like feeding a wire through.
Yeah, that made no sense.
So that they'd start.
Don't worry,
the van
we're doing
when
this
it
old
comes
school.
through, and then the wire comes up through the van. I don't know how long this thing is, but it just curls around and goes into the guy's eye. It's like, ruined it.
Yeah, that was. I mean, the one where he ran over his head, that looked pretty meaty. That was like, whoa, okay.
Look meaty, but like, why?
Well, yeah, but it was like, whoa, okay.
So yeah, gory, but
yeah,
not necessarily in a good way. No. I think.
But there was, I think we'll cover this in the next point if you're gonna continue.
Story.
Yeah. So there was a point where I'm like, okay, is this a horror, or is this a comedy?
Yeah, there was. You couldn't quite tell. It was like they weren't taking themselves seriously, but they were taking themselves real seriously.
Do you know when I twigged on that this was a comedy? It was when that massive disco ball showed up.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that was
okay, I see. All right, yeah. Okay.
There were some really funny bits. This is where I've actually written the stuff with the van is stupid.
There was that almost previously on, obviously with the original band in the house getting killed and whatnot.
Yeah, that looked pretty good.
That looked cool, but I felt it was jarring to the story. It felt like you didn't need to put that entire sequence in.
Yeah.
But you could just reference back to it and be like, oh yeah, so by the way, like 30 years ago, this happened in the house. And then you could kind of maybe insert little flash clips of people getting killed.
Yeah, that would work.
I just felt that ran a bit long. It was good. That was probably the best part of the movie. Is that first, like, 5, whatever it was, minutes.
Yeah. So, I've said about the story, it's pretty bad, really cheesy, too many jump scares, and it feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be. So that's the reference to the comedy or horror, because, like, some bits did feel like they were taking it really seriously, and other bits were just, like, everyone laughing and joking about stuff.
Having a good old time.
So weird.
The poop jokes are overly done.
Yeah.
I'm getting bored of seeing those now.
Yeah,
like, Exorcist happened in the 70s, get over it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just leave it to the Exorcist, yeah? Find something new.
Puke comes alive.
And obviously the book that was bound in human flesh.
Seen that before.
And the first thing you saw me do as soon as they said that was whip out my notebook, and you're like, I know what you're writing. I was like, what is it? She went, Evil Dead. You got it. Evil Dead. They're just rehashing. I mean, it is a comedy, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess it's throwing homage to Evil Dead, not trying to replicate it, but get some new ideas.
A little bit. Sound. Nothing really special. I mean, it was all based around creating this song, which, I mean, they joke about it being 40 minutes long anyway, but it's sort of not exactly anything decent. There's some good tension building use of sound in there. But yeah, nothing.
I was surprised when the movie started and you obviously get like the opening credits, Dave Grohl and blah 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 blah, and it says main theme by John Carpenter, and I'm like, what? John Carpenter's put his name to this? This cannot fail.
He must be a Foo Fighters fan or something.
Oh, how wrong was I? The recording of the instruments was good. The sound of the instruments was good. I'm not a Foo Fighters fan. I don't particularly like the music. I think they're a bit let me rephrase that. I think they're a lot overrated.
I mean, if they didn't have a good sound to their instruments, then something would be dreadfully wrong.
Yeah.
This is a band.
Yeah, exactly. But the song that you referred to, they're trying to make this song and trying to finish it, whatever. When they started playing the music, I'm like, this isn't Foo Fighters. This probably sounds closer to like Black Sabbath.
Yeah, because it was that like doom.
It's like it's getting close to that doom metal.
Low
yeah,
and slow.
yeah. You listen to that first sort of the Black Sabbath album, that opening track. That's kind of what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
That slow, powerful riffs and the sort of rhythm and the beats, and it was like, okay, why can't the Foo Fighters play this music? Because I'd be into the Foo Fighters if they played stuff like this.
I suppose part of it was they were writing this song, and it's not meant to be their song. It's the
yeah.
demon.
Let's go with demon.
Raccoon.
But it's just, I felt that kind of pulled me over it because I know the band. I've listened to Foo Fighters. I know a few of their songs. I'm not a fan of Foo Fighters. There's a couple I'm like, yeah, okay, I can listen to this. But if you've got that band playing something completely different, I get where you're coming from and that it's not them, but
I imagine Foo Fighters fans going to watch it being really disappointed that they weren't playing Foo Fighters.
I mean, they
music.
did do the fan thing of like, oh, well, I've got 2 new riffs that we can play, and he starts playing Monkey Wrench, and it's like, no, we've already done that one. They start playing something else. Like, no, we did that one as well, like 20 years ago. And
it's like the writer's block thing.
Yeah, it's like, right, okay, all right, let's get that out of the way. But yeah, no, I felt that music kind of threw me out of it because I knew it wasn't them.
Okay, acting. Oh, the acting.
Yep.
Over the top.
Oh yeah. Grohl overacts every friggin' scene.
Yeah, he overacts. You had the agent guy was really bad.
I put on here, just David Grohl overacts in every scene. I know it's a comedy, but come on.
Yeah. The other one who I couldn't sort of... It looked like he was trying to act, not he was being a character, was... I can't remember the name. The guy who sleeps in the kitchen.
I think his name's Pat, Pat Shear, I think.
I think so.
Don't quote me on that one. If there's any Foo Fighter fans watching this, don't quote us on that one.
Any line he was delivering, he had this massive grin on his face. It's like, what are you doing? I don't understand. But yeah, I feel he can't act.
That's actually one thing we probably should cover in sound, the sound of the band. The Foo Fighters are quite an upbeat kind of tempo band.
Yeah.
And there's 6 members. And you're like, how many members does a band need? And then, but you compare Foo Fighters,
Yeah.
and you know Foo Fighters songs, but then you compare another band with 6 members, Iron Maiden,
Yeah.
completely different.
Completely different.
Like, one band is great, Iron Maiden. The other band is not so great, Foo Fighters.
Yeah. Anything you want to say on acting?
I'm really annoyed they killed off Kerry King.
Yeah.
Because I think he probably would have done a really good job in this.
But
I'd
for
like
all
to see
we
that.
know, he agreed to be in the film because he wanted a death scene.
Yeah, it's possible. But I'm still like, oh my god, Kerry King just walked into the frame.
It's just like the roadie. It's great.
Not good acting for the most part, two over the top. Were they just following Dave Grohl's lead?
They're trying to match his energy.
Because Dave Grohl
probably,
is the frontman of the band.
Yeah.
Were they just going, well, he's doing it, so we should probably be the same?
Well, they're just not actors. This is the thing. They're like used to having a big on-stage presence, and like this is our movie.
Or if you're Dave
so
Grohl falling off the stage, you break your leg. What, huh?
So yeah, I think. Yeah, it doesn't help that they're not actors.
No.
Not everyone can do it. All right, the villain. What villain?
It was an unseen demon that possessed
Unseen.
David Grohl.
I felt like it wasn't well thought out at all. It wasn't it was nondescript. You had this caretaker character that sort of then was Dave Grohl at the end, but it obviously wasn't at the start, and we have no idea who this guy was.
Yeah, because he's chasing him around now.
So it feels like, I don't know, they started with this caretaker and then sort of just changed their minds as they went.
Script
what it should
rewrites.
be.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it had...
Going back to the sort of Evil Dead thing, there's never really a main possession by the demon.
No.
In the book, there's Deadites.
Yeah.
But there's no actual possession by the book
True.
itself, with the Necronomicon. And I feel that they were like, oh, maybe we're a bit too close to Evil Dead, we should probably change this.
Yeah, maybe.
But they didn't realise till halfway through shooting.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
There was this like there's a shot where he was in the basement and there was like almost ghost-like characters. They never showed up again. I don't know if they were meant to be the old band members, because I know they showed up towards the end.
Yeah, they might have been.
And a very out of place, cheesy ending.
I think I've clocked out at that point. If I'm honest.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. So yeah, I did not have a good view of this villain.
No.
Visuals. Some really cool effects, like you were saying with the grilling and and the running over the head was
the chainsaw.
I mean, running over a watermelon, but it's flesh kind of dealy. But with all the the cheesiness and the comedy, it sort of felt like those very realistic effects were out of place, and that's where it comes into the what are you trying to be? Are you realistic or are you a joke?
Yeah.
So it sort of took me out a little bit.
Going back slightly to the Kerry King being electrocuted and now the fact that looked like ass.
Yeah.
The after effect when he's got all that sort of burnt skin and stuff where he turns up as a spirit.
That
That looked pretty cool. Yeah, that was good.
Then you had the ghost-like character thingies that popped up, and then suddenly they had like LED red light eyes. Looked terrible.
I think when they were showing not them characters, but you had the demon kind of looking little demon characters with the red eyes and the open mouth that was red. I thought that looked pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And when the bed gets surrounded by that fog and they're kind of there and he's sort of having that dream sequence, but that looked pretty sweet as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Meh.
Yeah.
The whole film was a bit meh.
Yeah, a little bit.
Some good stuff, but mostly meh.
Okay. Next up on the list then, swiftly moving on as they say, Speak No Evil, which was released on the 17th of March 2022. Directed by Christian Taftrup. I hope I'm saying that right. The main actors in this one, as listed on IMDb, because that's where I've got the top directors on this, is Morten Burian, Sidsel CM Koch, and Fedja Van Huet. I hope I'm saying those right. This is, I think it was Danish. Oh, was this Danish or Dutch? Was that the same thing? I can't remember.
Don't say that.
But the run time was 1 hour and 37 minutes. So it was quite sweet. It was quite a short or relatively short. It wasn't too short. It wasn't too long.
Yeah.
So Leanne.
This one was very interesting. I haven't put a lot down for the spook gore factor. Like throughout, it was building almost a discomfort. I guess we'll go into it when we talk about story, but it's sort of more
unsettling.
It wasn't tension, it wasn't gore or spook, I suppose. But it was like
It was.
I don't know. This is wrong.
It was a tone made to feel you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And The Grudge does that. Mm-hmm. The Japanese version of The Grudge, the original Grudge, Ju-on does that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've told you this before, but the first time I saw that film, that's the only film to really creep me out. Asian horror does something different. It's psychological. It's not jump scare after jump scare and that kind of luck. When the first time I saw that movie, Ju-on the Grudge, I was friends with a person in an old workplace, and he was like, "Oh, I've got this Japanese movie. Do you want to come and see it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." He lived like 2 streets away from me, wherever it was. So I went over to his place, and they were quite tall. I'm not short, but I'm not tall either. And he was like 6 foot odd, and his partner was 6 foot odd. And I've got him sat one side of me, I've got her sat on the other side of me. I'm kind of like stuck in the middle of these 2 really big people on the sofa, like big as in really stocky and tall, not anything rude. The TV was quite large, and it was probably 10, 15 foot away from us max, so it was quite in your face with surround sound on. And I'm in a house I've never been in before. And that's kind of unsettling, because you kind of trapped between one person you semi-know and a person you don't know, with this visual kind of thing right in front of you. And as you go through, and it's all about that, the house, and you go into the house and you get a curse and it kills you, and rinse, repeat, and that kind of really unsettles you, because you're kind of almost living in that. And that's kind of reminded me of this. There was a point in this one that kind of reminded me of this, because you've got these two kind of mixing into the story a little bit, where you've got the couple with the girl who goes and visits the couple with the boy that they met on holiday, and they're in unfamiliar territory all the way through.
Yeah.
And it's quite unsettling in that sense, because you don't feel comfortable in someone else's house.
And it was such a relatable circumstance. It could be anyone could get into that situation. I felt right at the end, when the twist kicks in, there's some after the twist, it's like the sort of finale bit where they're showing people on holiday with their kids. It felt like that tried a little bit too hard to be a "this could happen to you" kind of thing. Yeah,
it was kind of in your face a little bit.
That did pull me out, and I didn't necessarily find the film scary. So I've not not given it a great score on this one, but it doesn't mean that I didn't like it, sort of thing. That comes into the next sort of bit. Yeah,
the scores. So what we're going to do in the quarterfinals and semis and the final is talk about what we liked, what we didn't like regarding our notes and whatnot, and then go, yes, this one was better than this one or this one. And if we can't decide, we'll go to the scores.
Yeah.
And then try and decide from that.
Story.
Yeah. One thing, the only sort of spooky bits that I saw was there was no subtitles for some of the scenes when the hosts were talking, and that's kind of like
in that discomfort.
Ooh, what are they saying? They could be saying anything.
Because obviously the other characters did not know what was being said, so neither did the audience, putting you in their position.
Yeah. The husband, when the visiting couple were having sex, looking through that window, that was creepy.
That was pretty creepy.
Oh. And the only gore that was really in the film was when they're cutting off the tongue at the end, which was pretty that's brutal.
It was. And so out of the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, the story on this one. If you know someone who doesn't know what gaslighting is, get them to watch this film. They will understand.
That's what gaslighting is.
The building of with the couple that would visit. There's just so many very small things that are just a little bit wrong, and they build up and build up and build up into the couple feeling like they need to leave, and then for some reason they have to go back to the house.
Just the bunny.
And are confronted by the couple they're visiting, who are like, well, what did we do wrong? And then trying to explain what happened wrong. And then as it's coming out of the woman's mouth, just being like, well, maybe I am overreacting. It's not. It's nothing.
They did a good job of twisting that around.
Oh, it was so
we'll
good.
Talk about. I've got a bit of that in the villain category.
Yeah, and so it sort of kept you on edge. Like, am I overreacting with this character? Because I feel like they're saying that things are wrong, but maybe it isn't. And then it just keeps on building. But they turn it around and start having a great time. And then things start going wrong again.
Yeah, because they're like, it's a shame you don't stay one more day, because today's going to be an amazing day.
And it was. Until
the end.
But that sort of emotional roller coaster that it's putting the watcher through was art, I feel like.
Yeah.
You just knew exactly.
It
what
certainly
you
felt
were
more like
dealing
an
with.
art house than a horror film.
Yeah,
in
I think
places.
so.
And some of the shots were beautiful, but again, we'll go into that with visuals.
Yeah, that's my stuff.
I felt the passage of time between the holiday in the beginning and then sort of going to this dinner with her actual friends, and then he just kind of brings up this thing about the invitation out of nowhere, and then they drive it. I felt that they probably could have done 2 months later or 3 weeks later, or just to kind of get a sense of time and how long this time frame has been.
Yeah, because
I felt that was a bit jarring.
It sort of occurs that it was quite a long time after.
Yeah. So the dinner scene bringing the over was weird. That's not quite how conversation works. I put down on my notes. Again, as you say, the host sort of turned all the issues back at them. So you're like, am I rooting for the wrong team?
Yeah.
You know?
Are you telling us that we can't do things differently to you?
So the husband finds the photos.
Yes.
In the outhousey, barny area, whatever we're going to call it. And then he's like, oh shit, we need to get out of here. So he goes back to the wife who's sleeping, and he's like, wake up, we need to go. It's like the dead of night. It's like probably 2 a.m, 3 a.m, whatever it was. And she doesn't even question it. She's just like, all right, fine, whatever.
Well, she'd already been building up to something's wrong.
But then why now did she not go, well, we've just had a fantastic day. Why are we leaving in the dead of night without saying anything? If that was me, I'd be like, what are you doing? And then you're like, this, we need to leave now. Okay, let's go. It gives that sense of urgency where she was just like, okay, that kind of killed that a little bit for me. That's about all I got for him.
Good stuff. The sound stuff. Something about the way that they use the unsettling tone, but it's throughout the mundane stuff. It's through they're watching the daughter doing the recorder recital and having dinner with their friends, and it's there, and it just sort of sets the tone of just because you think things are normal doesn't mean that they are. I thought that was excellent. Just like all the way through that tone, just in the right place to make you feel unsettled and like something's not right. But it wasn't building up to a jump scare.
It was just
necessarily a big climax. It's just this isn't quite right. Really artfully done.
We have a surround system. We obviously use it whenever we're watching it, I guess. Excuse me. The one thing I really enjoyed is when they sort of got to the countryside.
Yeah.
Because these people kind of live in the middle of nowhere, and they kind of get out of the car, and you just hear like the crickets in the middle of the night, and it's quite, and it kind of puts you right in there.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a really good use of sound. I thought that was fantastic.
Definitely. All right.
Anything else for sound or?
Nope.
When she's in the shower, and the husband we're assuming it's the husband, comes in and starts brushing his teeth, and you can hear it kind of. He's on the other side of the room. You can tell because of the spatial awareness of the sound. And then it gets louder because he's walking closer to the shower.
Yeah.
And it's like constant, and you can almost see a shadow if I remember rightly, and it's there and it's loud. And she's like, as I say, is he going to open this shower door and just do something to me right? What's going on? And then it builds up for like 20 seconds, and then he walks away. And
it's like a long scene.
Otherwise, I don't think there was anything really special. There was no sort of special sound effects that really stood out, and the music was quite
Yeah. Cool. Acting. I found it was really natural.
Yeah.
The characters were reacting the way that I feel like I would in the situation. Even the kids were very well acted.
Yeah. I mean, I put solid performance even the children, especially the young boy when he's dancing and he's going out of beat and trying to almost
that
not. It's like trying to mess it up, but not trying to look like you're trying to mess it up.
Yeah.
And he did really well. So fair play to that boy. He was phenomenal. I did feel there was some rushed lines as well.
Yeah.
Like there was a part I think with the two husbands are in the car, and he says something. I can't remember the line, but then the guy who's the host, he's like, oh, such and such. Oh yeah, what do you mean? And it was just a bit too quick. It was like a bit too.
Okay.
I feel there should have been a bit of a pause there. Man, if you want to talk about it, what do you mean by that?
But could that have been on purpose?
I don't know. It felt a bit too much. That felt a bit jarring for me. Because there wasn't a gap. There was literally line, and then continue. And it was like, oh, they probably should have been at least a bit of a pregnant pause in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, I just felt it was a bit too boom, 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 boom. And that kind of killed a bit of that tension, I think, in that car scene. Because that was like, oh, that's building to something. And then it was kind of like, oh, that just took me straight out of it. Okay.
That's another thing, I guess, going back to the sound, just very quickly, when they're screaming in the quarry, and the camera is very far away, and they use that distance, so you hear a very muffled, far away screaming, which it sort of, I don't know, it added to it somehow. It made it feel more like you were there, I suppose.
It's because of the distance and the you can still hear a part of the scream. It's almost like, wow, that's a lot of anguish and a lot of pent up rage or aggression or turmoil or frustration or whatever. And you kind of, I feel that even though you're that far away, you can still kind of hear it. It's like, wow, he's really screaming his lungs out and he's trying to just get this off his chest. And I felt that was a good use of that.
Yeah. Okay, villain then.
Yep.
I'm sort of in two minds whether to rate this highly or not, I think, because in terms of building up these characters, the hosts, spoilers, they're the villains, there was like, the things are wrong, small things are wrong, you know these are going to be the bad guys somehow, but are they, or are you overreacting? Anyway, but then when it comes to the climax where it's like, okay, these people are stealing children and cutting out their tongues, it almost felt a bit like a jump. I know it's building up to it, but it sort of leapt over to it.
Yeah.
But you never really knew why.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the motive. There probably would have been a motive, and perhaps it's there to make you wonder and to sort of use your imagination to fill in the gaps. But almost, I don't know. It's quite a believable situation in a way, but at the same time went from very believable to far-fetched, and then like throwing the stones at the end, and then they're like, that was nice, and off they go. Yeah.
But then, like, as you say, you see all these photos of the parents and the kids and whatnot. How many kids have they done this to?
That's a lot.
But why?
Yeah.
And that's what I got. There was not enough explanation on that. We don't need to be handheld. We don't need to know every little intricate detail. But give us something.
Yeah. So I was thinking maybe they're going to reveal that they had a child, took them on holiday, and because of another child, perhaps their child died. And then it started this whole cycle. And once you can't stop. Child gets annoying because they're screaming in the night, so they kill them and get another one. I don't know, but it was sort of left maybe too much to the imagination.
And then you kind of go about, and obviously they kidnap the girl, and the guy takes her, and they cut out her tongue, and the guy takes her, and they kill the parents. But then the other, sort of one of the last shots is them driving around the country with the daughter in the back, looking happy as Larry almost. She
didn't look happy.
Well, no, I mean like
dejected.
I mean like if that was me, I'd be fighting tooth and nail. I would rather die than be subjected to that.
I guess it's the question of what trauma does to someone, especially a child. Because it was something I felt after the child was taken. The parents are in the car. They're not fighting, and then they get to the quarry.
Like the husband's just taking punches from it's like, what are you doing?
Take their clothes off and walk in as they're being told. It's not like the hosts had weapons with them. They could have, if it was me and my child was taken, I would fight to the death to try and do anything to possibly get them back, or at least avenge.
The father or the daughter would probably have had an advantage because he didn't have a steering wheel blocking his way.
Yeah.
He's got a lot more motion of range. He could have fought back.
They'd been beaten a bit and suffered trauma, but I don't know. It did pull it down a little bit at the end, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
I know that wasn't in villain, but I didn't write it in story for some reason.
Yeah,
so
I kind of had it. But then, as you say, going back earlier to switching back and forth, the way the host would turn around and think, it's like, who's the actual villain here? And that was intriguing. That was good. And then it just kind of goes boom, boom, boom. It gives you, it's like that carrot dangling in front of the donkey. It shows you these pictures of the kids. It shows you their boy dead, laying face down in that pool. And it's like, oh, here we go. And then it just kind of builds up, falls flat.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a shame.
Damn.
It was so intriguing throughout. Visuals, a last point. They were sort of, the tones were very muted as for the whole film, which really lent into what I've termed as the uncomfortable mundane. Because it's normal stuff, but it's unsettling. So everything was muted down to make it seem very normal, but slightly wrong. I think that really, it's the art stuff again. It's leading into that. Yeah.
I thought the scenery and the transition was very well done.
Yeah.
And there was that
beautiful
scene.
Scenery.
Yeah. And there was that, I can't remember if it was the first or second time they try leaving with that fog's rolling in. I think it was the second time when the car breaks down.
Yes.
And you've got that blue light, and it kind of shows a blue hazy fog, and that was like, ooh. And it's probably the first time you see any sort of major colour shift.
Yeah.
And you know that something bad's going to go down, you know. But yeah, there was nothing really that special. And as you said, I thought the stoning looked a bit janky.
A little bit.
It's like, oh, what? It's like a bruise. You
I
chip
don't know.
a rock, it hits them, and it's like, oh.
I don't know exactly what happens to the human body when it gets stoned. I've never seen it. Never.
I don't think you would bruise that quick. If you
it's
watch
instant blood under
you
the
watch
skin.
fighting, you watch like UFC.
Yeah.
Someone takes a hit and gets a black eye. The black eye doesn't come out for a few hours. It puffs up, and then the blood starts coming in.
I was just thinking, like, do they go back and bury the body? I know there was a mound of stones. Like, do they pile stones on top? And they just left, and bodies are just out
Maybe
there.
the child carer guy did it.
Probably. A hired help.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know how they earn money as well, because the guy said specifically he doesn't believe in work. How do they own that house? How do they go on holidays?
Yeah, that was a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next film, number 4. X. The letter X. That's the name of the film. Released on the 18th of March and is directed by Ty West. Stars Mia Goth, Jenny Ortega, and Brittany Snow. Very, very heavy female-led film, this one.
Yes.
And the runtime is 1 hour and 45 minutes, which I felt was a perfect runtime, I think. I don't think I could... I probably could watch more if it was done right, but I felt that it did everything that it could with the time.
Yeah. I think any more would have been too much, probably. Cool.
Okay.
Straight into spook or gore factor.
Yep.
First thing I've written is there's nothing quite as scary as a horny old lady.
Yeah.
She is very horny and very old.
Yeah.
It's based around people going to make a sex tape, pretty much, or I think pornography.
A pornographic movie.
Not sex tape.
In the 70s. Let's just preface that.
The sex is the theme.
And they're trying to make it more upper class, I guess,
Classy,
like a movie with sex scenes, as opposed to, oh look, it's just two people having sex.
Yeah. But this lady wants them. There's some the first couple of times you see her, where you see her from a distance, and the eyes look black because they're like sunken in and dark. That was
that
so
bright white
creepy.
hair, yeah, it was so unsettling. It was like, oof.
Yeah. So a lot of gore. I think it's leaning towards gore for gore's sake. I think.
Yeah, the cow in the beginning looked awesome, but why was it there?
I have no idea. Right? Why was it there?
I have no idea.
I sort of forgot about that bit.
Yeah.
There was no.
That was probably
really
some of the best gore
foreshadowing.
I've seen in one of these films
Just
this
a
year.
cow literally split in half by a massive truck.
Guts
but...
just hanging
Yeah,
everywhere.
there was I guess
blood on the
setting the
headlights.
scene that something.
Oh, was it a foreshadowing with the blood on the headlights of the truck?
Oh, maybe it's clever. It felt like the horror in this film wasn't necessarily designed to scare. It was a shock factor and cringe in a scary way.
And there's kind of the way as well, they show the scare and then the sex and then the scare, then the sex.
Yeah.
And it's like people will always associate, well, for the most part, people associate physical contact with another human being, regardless of gender or preference, whatever, as something that is happy and treasured, and you get the endorphins kicked in, and then you've got, boom, that creepy old woman looking through the window watching them, and it's like, oh. So you're kind of flipping it constantly back and forth, and it's like, oh.
It's the juxtaposition. Interesting.
Yeah.
Anything else you've got for that?
With the gore, when the old woman's kind of talking to Ajay and you first sort of get to see her, and you can see something's different about the face, and like it twigged on later on that's one of the other girls in a prosthetic, and it's like, okay, cool. But then she's talking to him, and she's holding her hand in her back, and she's like, he's gonna get wrecked, and she just goes stab straight in the throat, and it's like, hits the ground, and she mounts him and just goes to town, and that was brutal.
Yeah,
it was almost to the point where I think if you probably picked that body up, the head would have just fallen off because of the amount of stabbing that she did, you know?
Right in the neck.
And then
gory.
the blood spurting onto the headlights again, like you said, the just that red filter. I thought that was fantastic.
I wonder if they wanted to use a red filter, but like, we need to make it look natural.
Yeah.
Or if they were like, wouldn't it be cool if blood got on the headlights and then everything looked red?
Yeah. And then sort of at the end, then when the head was being run over.
Yeah.
Now that was super juicy.
Juicy.
That was juicy.
Give me Studio 666.
Just done right. What?
Yeah. Alright, story-wise, for the most part it felt really predictable. Like you had the guy looking through the holes in the back of the barn and of course gets stabbed right through them, through the eyes.
I wasn't expecting a pitchfork though.
Well, no, something spiky. It was written for shock factor entirely, so it was very predictable. There were some really fun lines and moments, and the twist at the end was interesting.
Yeah.
I can't remember the twist. Oh yeah, yes, the twist where throughout the whole thing you've got they go to this. There's a old TV, and there's basically a preacher talking about the immorality of man, kind of thing. I don't know if I should say the twist.
We're all
People might wanna
sinners.
see it. Should I say the twist?
I mean, the people watching this, they've got to probably expect spoilers.
If you don't want to see the twist, skip ahead like 20 seconds. But it turns out that the preacher's daughter is the main female lead, who is in pornographic films.
Yeah,
So.
just enjoying her life. And is also the same actress who plays the old woman.
Because it sort of twigged when she was saying some lines, and then the TV was saying the exact same thing, because she's obviously heard it from him previously.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting story. Some predictable stuff, but overall quite fun, I suppose.
Yeah. I was never deny a horny old woman, because she just got brutal. It was quite a feeling of something wasn't right up until that twist sort of happened, and you could see that she just wanted to have some physical contact, so her husband could give it to her.
Yeah.
I did put the husband was established as a war veteran. You don't see him often, but he was sort of constantly, even the ethnic chap, I can't remember his name, he was a Marine as well in Vietnam, and that was kind of that kind of latching on point, and it kind of, oh, well, the old man can't be that bad, is it? And it's kind of, again, it's that sleight of hand and diversion tactic.
Yes.
But I did feel that once the twist was established and revealed and sort of what was going on, it just came boom, 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 and it was a bit too rushed.
That's always the way. If you reveal the villain too early, then you're stuck with kill, 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 end.
Yeah. Yeah, I just felt it was a bit too rushed after that.
Yeah. Alright. Sound. Plenty of jump scare stings.
Yeah.
Some tension building, some good tension building, but nothing particularly special, I didn't find.
Yeah, that when she's swimming, or skinny dipping, I guess you'd call it, in the lake, and the crocodile sort of chasing her behind, and that tension on that sound was like, oh, this is great.
It's a great shot, like the aerial shot, and you can see her, and then the line of this crocodile.
Wake of the crocodile, or alligator, whatever it was.
That was a nice shot.
Yeah.
Lovely scenery.
Again, going back to what we said about the previous movie, the nature sounds, because you're in the middle of nowhere. I thought that was well done. And the music as well, because I like my rock, I like my metal. It was old school kind of rock music, which was great. And I thought it kind of felt very much like Texas Chainsaw Remake, where they've got Lynyrd Skynyrd, and they're going to see Lynyrd Skynyrd, and there's constantly, anytime there's music like that, it's Skynyrd.
Yeah.
You know, and it was kind of like that. Like, I like that.
It really established the time period they were going for.
Yeah, I think it was 78 or 79 this one's based in.
Acting wasn't too bad. I think wasn't expecting much acting wise from this one.
Yeah.
But they played into the roles really well.
Yeah.
I did find both the elderly couple, obviously because one of them was artificial, at least. I think
both of them were,
prosthetics,
to make it look uniformed.
But it didn't entirely look real sometimes. The way that they moved wasn't quite right for old people.
But I think that kind of led into the whole creepiness of that.
Yeah, I suppose. But no, I think they did.
Yeah.
Did good.
Spiritual round, even though it was a bit like corny / not serious kind of movie. I thought everyone did a good job.
Good stuff.
Yep.
The villain.
Yep.
Interesting motivation. It's not something that is in any other horror film.
She wants to get some.
She wants to get some. People won't give it to her, so she's gonna kill them. It's that first rejection is what sparks it, I suppose, and then kills one because she's not a type.
Yeah.
Just goes crazy from there. But I did say, like we were saying just now, once the killing started, it wasn't nearly as intimidating or creepy as it had been when it was a threat. I think that's where it comes from, isn't it? It's a threat that you don't know what's going to happen. But as soon as you know exactly what's going to happen, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not surprised anymore.
Yeah. I put on mine, OAPs are lethal.
Okay, I got that
they did kind of tease RJ, who was the cameraman, because his girlfriend decided she wanted to be a part of the film. So they ended up shooting a scene, and you don't see any of that one, but you see, and he kind of goes a bit off the rails, and then he kind of it's like, oh god, is he going to start killing people? Then he decides he's going to leave instead and abandon them, and that's where he kind of meets his fate.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that they kind of teased that, because he's kind of trying to take away and be like, oh, keep me questioning.
Visuals.
Yep.
Some very interesting camera tricks and angles. Like right at the start.
The opening shot, yeah.
That opening shot looks like you're watching on an old
4:3 ratio TV.
Little TV, and then it pans forward and it's a doorway.
Yeah.
And then goes into the shot where the police are at the crime scene. So it sort of puts you in that place as a viewer and then going in to the scene, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that.
I've put there's some interesting camera angles, but I can't remember any examples necessarily. But that's fine. I think it was like looking through so you can see the scene plus the window where you've got the old woman creeping, that sort of thing. It sort of set the time period with like the camera tricks that they were using and added tension and intrigue. Like when they were filming the sex scenes, you had the grainy, like it was on a reel-to-reel.
Yeah, like a film, not digital.
Yeah, which is real good. I put old people
real
creepy
good.
as hell. Real good. I did want to say, I remembered the funniest bit where right at the end, you've got the old man has had a heart attack and died.
God, the shotgun.
You've got the final girl, I suppose we'll call her.
Yeah.
Trying to get away, and the old lady is there as well, sort of, and she picks up a shotgun and is aiming it at the final girl, and you think, oh, this is the end. Shoots the shotgun, obviously it's powerful, and she is small and frail, and she goes flying back through the door. Obviously the shot misses.
Breaks her hip, which has been alluded to throughout the entire movie.
It was I don't like seeing. I don't want to see old people get hurt, but she had it coming, and it was hilarious.
The only other thing I got here, obviously you covered everything I've written down there, but the flickering cutaways.
Oh yeah.
They were a bit jarring.
That was very strange.
Yeah. It's like second of this, second of that, second of that again, second of that again, and then it's like, that's weird.
Back and forth between the scenes.
Yeah.
I guess they were trying to do something with it. I'm not quite sure
what. It
didn't sort of end up leading to anything that we'd understand.
Yeah,
but it was an interesting choice.
It was interesting, but I felt it was a bit jarring.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was X.
X.
Okay, next up, film number 5, Choose or Die. This was a Netflix movie. It's released on the 15th of April. Directed by Toby Meekins. The main actors were Iola Evans, Asa Butterfield, and the voice of Robert Englund.
Yes.
Runtime of 1 hour and 24 minutes.
I really liked this one. It was different. So in terms of spook and gore factor, there were some jump scares. One in particular made me nearly knock over my drink. I jumped hard.
I can't remember which one that was.
It was in the pool where the little boy jumps on her back.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't find it a particularly tense film.
No.
Or something that... Because a lot of films, the scare is that it keeps playing on your mind afterwards, and it's like something real. I didn't get that impression.
Again, like something like The Grudge, like I talked about earlier.
Yeah. The gore was... It wasn't egregious. A lot of the time, you didn't actually see the stuff that was happening, but what was happening was...
It's kind of leading you to imagine it in your mind. It kind of puts that seed in there, and like the woman eating in the glass in the canteen.
So I don't think you actually saw any blood, or maybe
only when she's kind of talking and it kind of spurts out of her mouth. But that's it.
But
that's just a blood tablet. And like Gene Simmons uses.
But like you know that is gory inside.
But you're kind of imagining, you're kind of picturing it in your mind's eye of the glass cutting up all her mouth and tongue and. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of, I guess, implied.
Yeah. Filling in the blanks, as it were.
It's good, though.
Yeah, I echo the same. There's not really much in the way of gore or spooks. There was some decent moments of tension.
Yeah.
But nothing that really stood out.
No. Agreed. In terms of story, it was such an interesting concept. So, it's a video game that affects reality, and you have to make a choice or you die.
Choose or die.
So you've got like the innocent ones that start where it's coffee or cake, and it has an arrow, and she looks to the side of the computer and sees the cafe menu, and suddenly all it says is either coffee or cake, so she has to choose one, and as soon as she says coffee, the waitress is there pouring coffee instantly. So it's that kind of thing, and then obviously more sinister afterwards. So I felt like it really kept the surprise. You never really knew what was going to come next, what choices were going to be there. I don't think I found any of it really predictable. And when you thought you knew what was about to happen, it sort of turned it on its head.
Yeah, which is clever.
Yeah. Yeah, I put, it's in a way, there was sort of gore for gore's sake. Some of the scenes, it was like, oh, is there any need for that many needles? But it always had a purpose and it wasn't overplayed.
Yeah.
So I thought I really enjoyed the story, how it was put together.
One thing that bugged me was that when they go through the red door and she hears the brother and sees the brother running around, she starts chasing him.
Yeah. She
already knows he's dead.
Yeah.
Why is she trying to chase a dead figure?
But it's...
but then when you get to the culmination of that particular scene, and she has to choose either the brother or Isaac, and she has to choose Isaac by smothering her own brother. Ooh. Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah. And it leads into the guilt she felt because she felt like it was her fault her brother died, which is, I feel like, is why she would have been chasing him, because she's been longing to see him again, and suddenly he's there and she wants to know what's going on. Yeah.
The one thing as well is that they didn't know where the tape came from, because it's a tape, not a digital cartridge or CD, because it's a game from the 80s. Yeah. And there was a thing about how you copy the tape and pass it on to someone else, and it kind of leaves you alone. That was very Ring or It Follows to me. Yeah. The way that you kind of pass this curse on. Obviously, cursor like being the name of the program. The
bit that saved that is that, as far as we know, only happened once.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like every time it was passed on.
Well, we don't know how many tapes that were made, but yeah. But it kind of felt like, okay, you're like Student 666 is rehashing other stuff. Yeah. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing if it's done correctly. But I felt that this was more of a direct, like, hey, they did the same thing in The Ring, let's do it here. Yeah. You know, it felt a bit too much of a copy on that. Yeah. I don't know why, but I felt there was something missing. Okay. I don't quite know. There was it didn't leave me like fully satisfied.
Yeah. I think the sort of main, I guess we get into it in villain, but the main sort of the person who instigated it didn't come to justice. No. Which might be something to do with what's missing.
It might be.
So I'd assumed that when it was the boss battle bit, that it would be the creator that would be the boss, but it wasn't.
No. But it was just the creator pulling the strings.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Well, say creator pulling, he did create it, because it was...
He created the game itself. He put the curse into the game, Yeah. Okay, sound. Good music and sort of scene setting sounds. It was retro kind of
very low bit 8-bit kind of music
to match the era the game came from rather than the era that the film was set in, so that was quite interesting. I didn't put anything much else. There wasn't.
I love that Robert Englund was the voice of the when you call that hotline.
Oh, that was
and he
cool.
Literally somewhere he's like, surprised. This is horror icon Robert Englund, and it's like, oh,
it is.
The glitches in the sound were good. Obviously leading into the game, it sounded like distortion in the file. Not, as you say, not like a fabricated kind of modern day thing. Just sounded like an old school glitch, which is kind of cool. It kept on unsettling, which is nice, because they can be quite a jarring noise.
Yeah. In terms of acting,
worst Freddy Krueger impersonation ever. What the hell was he doing?
Yeah,
I'm Freddy. I'm Robert Englund. What's that?
But he was acting doing a bad impression.
That's almost more like a Predator.
I think it was because he was in the TV and like coming out of the TV.
Doesn't even do that because the arms come out of the side of the TV.
I don't know.
Welcome to
Kid
prime
that's in a
time,
film.
bitch. Grabs her and slams her head in the TV. Don't Nightmare on Elm Street's my jam.
Yeah, I don't know. You're getting too hung up on this bit.
No.
I found generally the acting excellent.
Yeah, it was good.
Really well casted and acted.
The only one I felt was a bit weak was the dealer.
Yeah.
I felt that he was a bit, I don't know, didn't quite hit the stride. I know he's going for creepy and sleazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it really came across that way.
I don't think we saw enough of him. I think either they should have maybe not shown him physically,
Have him as an
apart from,
unseen.
like, the
Yeah.
or had him involved more to see more of the bad stuff he was doing, because we only got what he was doing really through word of mouth or from his.
Or you see that the crack pipe thing.
Yeah, and then it's implied that that's from him. So yeah, I get where you go with that one, but whether that was the acting or the writing,
it could be that. Yeah, I don't. Anytime I saw him, I was just kind of like, oh, this guy again.
Like just leaning on the wall. It's like, oh, is that him? He's a guy.
And then at the end, when he's trying to sort of coerce the daughter into sleeping with him, and it's just like, this is awful.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because of the bad. I don't think it was because of the writing. I think the writing was fine. I just think it was the way he performed it. I just didn't like the way he performed it.
Wasn't quite right to be a gangster sort of guy, I guess. The villain was, I suppose, there were multiple levels. So you had the curse itself, I suppose, was its own villain. You had the creator of the game who sort of pulls the strings to spread this curse and help himself, and you had the first player, who was just a dick.
Yeah, absolute tool.
And the final boss.
Yeah.
But sort of also, I don't know, it's a bit abstract, I suppose, the villainy in it, which was quite intriguing and sort of, I don't think it left you with, there wasn't a big bad, there was just a blanket of not great. And I guess the dealer was also villain in this. Yeah, I do.
I like the fact that the game was seemingly everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't really escape it.
No. If 2 o'clock hit and it was on
devices,
whatever device you were near.
Which is pretty cool. I like that. Because it's almost like it's stalking you, but it's not. It's just an ever constant presence. You know, it made it quite threatening.
Yeah. The one where she was in the tower, so that level of the game where it was the rat and the mother, and then he was asking where to go, and she instantly assumed it was the mother that she was going to be controlling.
I did. But
it was the rat. That was so interesting. And then she had to tell her mother to jump out of a window or she was going to get killed by this thing. And then I thought that was really intriguing because that's the sort of the gore that you don't see. We only saw the aftermath. We saw the mother in the hospital. You just kind of hear
the sounds.
And you saw the room after it happened with just the scratches, like head height in the door. It's like, was this rat tall?
It's like Splinter.
Was it up the wall? What was happening? And it had the chew on the door. That was the choice she
made.
The
command prompt.
Command prompt. It's really sort of intriguing to think, how on earth does this curse work?
Yeah.
And it left you guessing a bit what actually that scene would have looked like if we'd seen it in the room. I'm glad we didn't. I think that was a good choice.
I would have taken it out of it a bit.
But yeah, it's really interesting.
I think I think the big downer for me was that the curse wasn't its own sentient being.
Yeah.
And that this guy is controlling everything.
Yeah, it would have been...
I felt that was a bit of a cop-out.
Would have been good to see, like, the origin of it, but maybe that's for a separate movie that'll probably be terrible.
Yeah, like, imagine just this program is completely self-sentient, and it infects a system, and it started writing the program, or the curse, rather, is self-sentient, and it wrote the code itself for the game. And then it found its way into the hands of this program, and the program was like, right, well, we need to test this and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been better than this guy who actually typing it out and then him being the one pulling the strings.
Yeah, it felt like the curse existed, and he just put it into a form that it could infect more people, I suppose.
Yeah.
Visuals.
Yeah.
It was quite dark.
Yeah.
Which worked for the thing. The fog in like the swimming pool made it very hard to see, but I think that really put you into the character's perspective.
And again, I kind of said, because it was pixelating, we've got a good internet connection, it was pixelating, and I said that this is why streaming kind of sucks at times.
Yeah. The glitch effects were really well done. So you had like the restaurant owner, the cafe owner, who the game made defend the woman eating the glass. Yeah. And just like the glitchy effect. So it was, you had glitchy movements, but you also had the visual effects over it.
Pixelations.
And then when the companion, don't know his name.
Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac. Went into that sort of glitch field.
In 1980s kind of, yeah.
And then was...
He's just chucking up spewing up the tape.
That's brutal.
And then fast forward, rewind, fast forward. It's like, oh god, okay. Yeah.
That scene was so long.
Yeah, that did go on a bit too much.
Yeah, I thought, visual effects worked, well done, and added to it, which is what you want.
Didn't do it. And obviously the game is quite a basic, like an 8-bit or 16-bit.
Yeah, like text-based pretty much.
No, that didn't take away from it, and I thought that was really, it placed you in that product of the time of when the game was made. So. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, film number 6, The Black Phone, released June 24th, 2022, obviously. Directed by Scott Derrickson. Main actors were Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw, and Ethan Hawke, with a runtime of 1 hour and 43 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Then straight into the spook or gore factor. This was another very interesting film. With the scariness, it sort of played into natural everyday fears of kids being snatched. That's something that every parent would have a fear of, and most kids have a fear of as well. But then also a nice little sprinkling of supernatural, but not too much. I wasn't. It was hard to see, I guess, with the Black Phone, the supernatural bit. There wasn't really a sense of how much it was going to build up, how much it was going to have an effect. So you sort of were left wondering, how big is this going to go? How scary is it going to get? So it sort of kept that tension, I suppose, that way. But it wasn't overplayed. They didn't do too much with the supernatural, but sort of just enough, I felt. It was creepy. Yeah. A phone ringing when it's not supposed to work always gets me. It's one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah, because the line's clearly cut, and it's not. That shouldn't ring at all.
It's like a classic trope, I suppose, but it was really interesting the way they used it. But we'll go into that on the story section.
Yeah. In terms of the spookiness, I thought the setting was really good. If you find yourself waking up in a solid concrete room that's soundproofed with no way out, that's gonna put the shits up you regardless of who you are. And it reminded me of Saw, the way they kind of wake up in that basement, and they chain to the.
The guy's mask was creepy too.
Yeah, the devil mask looked amazing. It felt very Ghost or Bray Wyatt kind of inspired.
So he had the one smiling and the one frowning, and he could detach either side.
Or the one that was blank.
Yeah.
The blank one as well. But we'll get into that in a bit. And then it's as I say, there wasn't really much in the way of gore.
No.
But every time the phone rang, God, that tension just kicked up high. It's like, oh, what now? You know, and that became its own character. The phone became its own character, which is okay, cool.
It did. Story-wise, just the fact that the supernatural wasn't the bad bit, if that makes sense. It was the creepy stuff with the phone ringing. Yeah. But it was almost the hero or the is it a MacGuffin? I don't know what the word is. For the thing that helps.
It's like a red herring. You expect it to be bad, but it's not. It's something that's actually helping you and assisting you.
And you'd see these other kids, as they had died, as ghosts, I suppose. And the boy who was trapped saw them as well, sometimes, but not all the time. And they were terrifying looking, but they were there to help. And it was just turning that on his head was something that I don't think I've seen before. And it keeps you guessing, because you always have that thought with, are these actually helping? Are they a part of it? Or I had this thing in my head with that phone has somehow taken these children, rather than they'd been killed in the room or something, or that the room, because there's a crack running the whole way round, I just felt like that was going to open up and swallow him at some point. So that, I don't know if that was done on purpose, but my brain was working overdrive trying to figure out what was going to happen.
I think it's probably something to do with, again, going into the tension or the spook factor almost, where you see a crack and you think, oh, there's a fault line, that's got to be a way out. That's got to be something that can help me. And you, if you are trapped in a room, you're going to try and find a way out. You're going to try and find any little thing that can help. And that crack, I think, was meant to be a way of symbolizing that. Of like, hey, there's this crack running through the room, but you can't do anything with it. Because you haven't got any tools to do anything with it, you know?
Yeah, I think the story did enough to leave things to the imagination, while still staying true to what it was going to be, and the ending was really satisfying.
Yeah.
It was very well done.
The one thing that the first thing I said when I saw it said based on a short story written by Joe Hill, and I'm like, Joe Hill, hang on, is that the Joe Hill that I'm thinking of? And I googled it, and it's Joe Hill as in Stephen King's son, Joe Hill. Stephen King's notoriously got a history of not knowing how to finish books, and it's kind of taken the mick out of in It Chapter 2 when they kind of say that the writer in there he's almost portraying Stephen King as like, well, all your endings suck, so. And it's very much like that, and I was afraid that this was going to be the same, but it wasn't. In terms of like the fake out with the house, I thought that was great. I thought, because obviously they have the police looking for the kids, and they go and investigate. They go and speak to that Max guy, and then it pans down after they leave, and it goes to the floor and then into the basement. I'm like, that's a transition. That's a cool transition. But it wasn't. It was actually underneath the damn house.
From that moment, I was like, oh, he's in the same house.
So I thought the opposite. I thought it was just a transition, like a smooth transition. The one thing I didn't like was the exposition from the police talking to the press at the end.
Okay, yeah.
It was like, yeah, we found this. This is the person. This is what happened. And it's almost like, we're going to handhold you. You haven't been paying attention. So this is what actually happened in the film. That's exactly what I got out of it anyway. It kind of felt like it was force feeding you, even though if you watching the film, you get everything you need and what they said anyway.
I just took that as the press conference after a big thing.
I think that you probably could have done like the first line and then just faded out into music or backed away in. But they did the voiceover all the way. It was fading out, it was zooming out, and it was still going. And it was like,
I can see
you're treating me like I'm stupid. Okay. So yeah, lost points for that.
Fair enough. Sound. It's a really good soundtrack. Not sort of the typical horror sounds to it.
It was very electronic in nature. Like, almost like Vangelis' Blade Runner. Yeah. But a lot more bassy. And I did say bassy, but my notes are autocorrect to busy. Very busy. Great, awesome. Thanks.
I felt the sound gave the right sort of feel for the time period. So yeah.
Again, it's not modern day. It's did it say? I think that was 70s as well.
I think it was 70s. I think the 70s are hot at the moment, apparently.
Yeah,
not bad.
The one thing I liked is when the brother, I can't remember his name now, Finney. When Finney gets snatched or grabbed by the grabber, which is the kidnapper, obviously, and they have that school assembly, and they see the girl sitting there with the other children. They focus on the police and the principal there.
Yeah.
But they're talking, but there's no sound. It's just that underlying bassy kind of electronic music. And then it pans across and it zooms, you can kind of see the kids looking at the girl. I felt that worked really well.
Yeah, it's like that's what's in her head at the moment. She's not going to be hearing
I feel
anything.
that if you cheered the voices, it would have just completely killed that.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that they didn't do that. And that's what they should have done at the end, in my mind.
That's good. There's the sound of the phone ringing. I know it's like a typical phone sound, but with the
we don't even hear that
well.
anymore these days either.
No.
But yeah, as it bounces
like
off the concrete
shrill.
walls, and and
it's that one
echo.
time where instead of a ring, it's a solid ring, and it's like, oh, that's the phone. I don't know. That was, and because it's such a sudden, shrill sound, it just like takes you right out.
Yeah.
Like, jumps you into the fear. Acting.
Yep.
A little bit hit and miss with the children.
I thought they did a really good job, to be fair.
Main brother and sister, excellent.
Yeah.
The other kids, a little bit off.
Although, he can't cry on camera for shit.
No.
That was awful.
It's so hard for children.
Then don't put it in there. If he can't, if it looks that bad, don't put it in the film. Reshoot it with some sort of like tension, there's other ways to express that emotion. It hasn't got to be crying. If the person cannot cry and make it look good, don't put it in.
Fair point.
You know, there's other ways to express it.
Yeah. I'd find the kid who's like the tough kid who beat up the bullies.
Robin, I think his name was.
Yeah, I didn't think he did very good. I think
maybe
that was a bit a little bit.
Yeah.
It felt like that kid in real life is not that kid.
No.
And he's doing a good job, I suppose, but you know that is not him. He is acting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's okay. The children is hard.
Yeah, again, they're young and they haven't got that experience like someone like a Johnny Depp or an Ethan Hawke. You know, Ethan Hawke's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
They'll probably get.
Yeah.
They'll get there. The villain. I've put, considering really didn't have a huge amount of screen time, the grabber, but he gave some real creepy guys vibes.
Even though he didn't have a lot of screen time, I felt that he was a constant presence.
Yes. You knew he was always up those stairs.
Any moment he could just be like, boom, through the door. It's like, you've got that jarring sense of that, and that was very tense.
Yes, it was really well done. And even like when, at the start, when you hadn't seen him as the grabber, but you knew that the grabber was a thing, it's that you don't know when a kid's going to get snatched kind of thing. I suppose it's leaning into that. He's a constant. But yeah, I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Creepy mask.
I like the mask, and he was very emotionally devoid.
Yeah.
He didn't have much, and he didn't show much in the way of emotion apart from anger. And I felt that the masks were the way of expressing that, which was really cool.
Yes.
And I liked that. It's a very different way of showing emotion, which I really liked. It kind of seemed like he wasn't doing it out of his own means, but he was kind of being forced into it. So was that like a split personality? Did he believe he was talking to the devil or something else, like a higher power of some sort? I think it would have been cool to have maybe touched on it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily given everything, but kind of just touched on it as if, why are you doing this?
Yeah, because there was lines like...
And I don't think, that's the first thing I would have done. If I was Finney in that, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
But he didn't.
He didn't. There were lines from the ghost saying he thinks he's nearly figured it out. He thinks you're the one. It's what is he trying to figure out? And that's where it sort of played into my head of is it the phone he's trying to figure out? Because he was intrigued by this phone. He said he'd been in the room where it rang once, sort of thing. So is that what he's trying to work out? Is he trying to like feed this child to the phone? I don't know. So my head was going a bit nuts.
Can only pick up the receiver and get sucked into the...
That would have been a completely different film.
But yeah, no, I thought he did really well.
Yeah, it's good. I like I can't. What was it? It was a bit where he came down. He had the tray of food, and he was asking Finney what his name was, and Finney lied.
Yeah.
And he steps into the light and he's got the frowny mask on. It's like, almost, is the mask adapting to his behaviour? Or did he come down expecting him to lie? Because he did have the newspaper as well.
Yeah. And he kind of throws the food on the floor. And just starting to like you. And I think he says, I was about to let you go. And
yeah. Should have told the truth, I suppose. But names have power. Visuals... It's sort of almost a grainy 70s TV look.
It's a washed out sepia kind of tone.
Yeah, that kind of thing. The TV thing was in the dream sequences where, because the girl's got some sort of psychic powers, she sees things in her dreams. And that did look like you were watching on an old TV.
Yeah. But the rest of it was all washed out in that brownish kind of sepia tone, which was great because it made it look like old. Look like old? Look old. And 1970, I think it was 79, that's like 43 years ago.
Yeah. So it sets the tone, sets the time period, and also distinguishes those dream sequences to reality. It's good.
Yeah. We covered the masks. The grabber sitting in that chair with the belt at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
That was like, ooh, that's uncomfortable.
You can see the eyes through the eye holes a bit, but from a distance, you can't tell if he's sleeping or not.
Yeah. The only other thing I got for visuals was the good old Stephen King staple, a child wearing a yellow raincoat.
Yeah.
And obviously the balloons, which were black in this case.
Yes. They like balloons.
Yeah.
Good
So
stuff.
that was the black phone.
Black phone.
Number 7, Incantation, another Netflix movie. This one was released on the 8th of July. It was directed by Kevin Ko. This might go a bit wrong with the actors' names. The main actors were Suyan Yen Sai, Ying Suyan Keo, and Sean Lin. And it had a runtime of 1 hour and 50 minutes. This is, I think it was Chinese or Taiwanese.
I think it said on Netflix, it said Taiwanese/Chinese.
Okay, so so I was right, yeah.
Collaboration or something.
So this is one of the, this might be the only Asian horror film we've got, because there hasn't really been much recently.
No.
In this particular tournament, should we call it? Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, the spooks. We started watching this quite late one evening.
A couple
and
nights ago, yeah.
15 minutes in, I was like, I need to stop. I tend to, if I watch something really scary before bed, then I'll get nightmares or have trouble sleeping or freak myself out, basically. And there was that one scene where it was just beat after beat after beat of all of those scary things. You had lights turning off and on their own. You had noises down the corridor and she's falling. You had creepy children stuff. Creepy children stuff is the worst.
It's creepier when you've got the creepy children stuff, and then it sounds like it's an old woman screaming in the elevator.
Yeah. Ooh.
And then the elevator opens and the voice comes out, but there's no one in there, and the mother freaks so hard.
Freaks out. And you got
and then you freaked out so hard.
Looking under the bed where you think the child is, and something crawls out, but it doesn't look like the child.
Yeah.
So we stopped, and then I watched Extra Slice Great British Bake Off instead.
It's a horror show in its own right.
And then we went back to watch it the next day, and it turns out that scene was the only one that would have affected me in that way the whole movie. So we could have carried on, but hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So for a start, it was pretty scary. It had all of those tropes. It had there's sort of through the whole thing there were these scary moments, and you didn't quite know what was happening, and things were happening to people but not quite to that level. I think there was the scene in the daycare where the child was like running away to play hide and seek, and then you saw these creepy arms coming out to grab her on the camera.
Yeah.
In a way, that took it down for me.
Oh really? Okay.
I always find I'm gonna reference a terrible film, but it's the Paranormal Activity phenomenon where the unknown is what freaks me out the most.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start to see it, even if you still don't know what it is, but you've seen it, it lowers that tension for me. And not to say that this film wasn't scary after that, because it was, but it sort of calmed me down a bit. I saw the arms, I was like, oh good.
But then there's that part at the end where you see the arms again, but there's like 15, 20 of them, and it's like...
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah. I just got a high spook rating for me. So.
Yeah, no, I put Asian horror as the master of the spooks.
Oh yeah, it really is.
And whilst there wasn't much in the way of gore, the tension went all the way through, and while there wasn't much in the way of gore, the sores or the illness that sort of came over the girl's body, and then the mother, that looked painful.
It did.
Like, jeez.
Yeah,
dude.
It's hard to believe. We'd probably say it in visuals, but it's hard to believe that would have been done with makeup or visual effects, or maybe both in this case.
Yeah.
It did look real painful.
Yeah. Kind of reciprocate then. It's like, because everyone's had like a little rash or a cut or whatever, and it's like, oh, that.
And this is like.
And that's like just. Oh, whoa. Yeah.
Yep. Story, very well written. Very few cliches.
Yeah.
And the take on parenthood. There's quite a theme of what it's like to be a parent and how to do the right thing for your child when things are really hard. That really sort of hits home. Really good twist to it that just did not see coming the whole thing. Yeah, it wasn't obvious, the twist. Sometimes the twists are too obvious, but right until the very moment she said the twist, just had no clue. But there's still plenty left to the imagination.
Yeah.
I found there was sort of the baddie character, which was the thing that was on the child's ceiling, I suppose, and they were like had quite a presence.
Yeah.
I did feel like that didn't get tied in the end. And then it seemed like there were possibly multiple entities, but then it was just the goddess character. So it felt a bit like, what exactly was it? Was it relevant, sort of thing, I suppose?
I mean, you think of the baddie and that, and it's not really shown or relevant. I'd imagine that was the arms that were trying to grab the child in the school.
But then when there's multiple arms later on, it's like, is that still one thing? Are there more than one baddie? But I suppose, in a sense, it's the not explaining isn't always a bad thing.
Flipping it on the other side of what you just said about the mother and the motherhood thing,
Yeah.
it also shows that Dodo, the daughter, is going to a new home with someone she doesn't really know.
Yeah.
And that's an uncertainty as well. So you've got two entirely conflicting sets of, like, oh, this is newness in one aspect of going to a new home, and this is newness because I'm now looking after a small person, like a child, a human being. And it's two very different kinds of emotions almost, and they're just kind of being slapped together.
Yeah. It makes you wonder.
Like if you're having a child
Yeah.
For the most part, I don't want to try to offend anyone, but if you have a child, you come home from the hospital, you have that child throughout the inception up to that sort of age, or like, what was it, 5, 6 years old, whatever she was. Yeah. But this child has been in care. She was taken from the mother.
Yeah.
But now the mother's getting custody back, and that child's like, well, who the hell is this woman?
Yeah. There's the question of what was it? Is before Dodo goes back to her mother, the curse doesn't seem to be. It's like quieting down. Nothing's happened, but as soon as they come together, everything kicks off. So is it the fact that they're together? Is it because part of the curse is the more you understand of it, the more that's when things go bad? So is it that when the child is with the mother, that's when she starts really thinking about what happened when she broke the taboo, and that's why it all starts? Or that wasn't exactly explained, but it's interesting to think about. It is possible that you think of, just throw a common name out there, for example. I don't mean to offend anyone with the name of John Smith, okay? So you can, there's probably like a few hundred or maybe thousands of people named John Smith in the world. And that would probably be the same. Dodo Chen in China or Taiwan or wherever this is based. It didn't really say whereabouts it was based. That might be a common name. So by having the child taken from her, the vengeful spirit or curse or whatever you want to call it might not have known which child it was, which is why it didn't find the girl. I've just had a thought. But then when she comes home with the mother, it's obviously tracking the mother and it wants the child. Yeah. But then when she comes home, it's like, got you. So this is going to be a bit of a long-winded theory, probably. So in the videotape, the cursed videotape sort of thing. Yeah. So the one that she's reluctant to show us. Yeah. They go to the temple, and part of the ritual is they write their names down. They offer it to the goddess, and they have to go every 10 years to offer it again to keep, I guess, appeased. And they do say that when the child is born, you'll need to bring her and offer her name as well, because she's already pregnant, so it's there, but there isn't a name yet to offer. So when the child goes to the home and they're together, one of the first things that they're doing is writing her name. Oh, yeah. And saying the name. So is that, in a sense, she now has a name. It's been written by the mother who is linked to this place. Yeah. Is that the moment where the goddess is like, should mine now? Yeah. Yeah, you haven't offered the tribute, so maybe. That's a good chat, actually. Cool. Okay, anything else on story? Talk about that quite a bit. Feel it was a bit grudge-like. Yeah. Obviously spreading the curse to others. This is probably more in spook factor than story, but when she grabs the knife after jumping off the balcony, that was dark. And then you obviously see her clambering back up, and it's like she's talking to this spirit that she can see, or the baddie, and it's like, what now? This is getting really twisted now. Yeah, it was really dark. Which is kind of good. The only thing that I felt kind of let it down a little bit was, or two things as well. Filming the child, obviously to make the diary of her coming home, and that made sense. Yes. But there was moments where she wasn't filming the child, she was filming just herself. I have a theory though. Yeah. That when the curse had started, so when she was committed, she was like, said that she was crazy. So things were happening. Her parents died because of this thing. So I feel like she knew having the child back might trigger something. And she didn't want people to think she was crazy. So she filmed in case things happened, and she was capturing everything. Maybe. Yeah, like that's sort of the impression I got. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I'm not going to change my scores, but that's fair enough. And because of the bit where she then tries to spread the curse by sharing this video to prove that something is happening and she needs help, so please help me with this incantation. Okay, yeah, no, that's fair enough. I got theories about this film. I did feel that the story wasn't in depth. It wasn't very in-depth story, but it was enough to keep you watching. And the switching back and forth between current and the going to the temple with the Ghostbusters, as they call themselves. I feel that if you put like a filter on that to make it look a bit older, it wouldn't be as jarring. But as it stood, it was like scene, boom, you're back in time, boom, you're back in, and it was like boom, 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 which I get. Yeah, that's true. It's kind of like Arrow, but at least Arrow in that sense has that musical cue, that stinger cue, to be like, you go back in time. Yeah. To the previous parts. This didn't. It was just bang, 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 bang. Yeah. And I feel that if they'd done something there to maybe offset that a little bit, it probably wouldn't have been as jarring. Yeah. Cool. The sound. The low tone they use to unsettle, that got me. Especially that first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Also, the chant, every now and then they'd have, because there's the incantation.
Yeah, which we will not repeat.
Or will we? But they'd
If
have
you
that
think you can do it off the top of your head.
part of the background music, I suppose,
Yeah.
with the almost the monk-like chanting. Music was alright, pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
The gory sounds, when there was any bits of gore, that was particularly meaty.
Yeah.
That sounded really good
Even
and wet.
the like when she had the swords pulling back the pajamas to show it, and you could hear it
sticking to the cloth. The voices and spirits I put was really good, especially in surround sound. You really felt that they were behind you when it was coming from that area, which was really good. And as you say, the chanting, it was ridiculously basic because it's a throaty chant, and it was quite unsettling because it's a low frequency.
Yeah, just adding to it. Good stuff. Acting, I really enjoyed the acting from the little girl, from the mother, from the care home owner.
Call him a care worker.
I don't think there was anyone that I stood out as being a bad actor. Even like the other Ghostbusters, they were playing being like nerdy kids on a ghost hunt, and they did it really well.
There was the one I've got here, the one with the glasses. I can't remember his name, but he felt a bit OTT for me.
Okay, yeah.
He was just a bit too much at times.
I wonder if that's though because he was sort of doing a YouTube channel and he's on camera and playing it up in that way, but it's hard to tell, isn't it?
But like if you're stuck in a situation like that where you don't know where you are and there's some weird ass shit going down, you're not going to be playing up to that.
You're not going to be carving dicks into the
exactly.
Or would you?
Yeah, but as you say, even Dodo is like clearly young. She's like 6 years old or whatever it was, and it's like, wow, she's nailing it. Fair play to her.
I wonder if she's seen it. Hopefully not. Yeah. Okay. Villain. I think I sort of mentioned this a bit before. It's sort of almost nondescript with the baddie.
Yeah.
And you don't really know how involved the mother goddess, I think, Mother Buddha.
Was it? Yeah, I think it's Mother Buddha.
How much of an impact she had, if it was real, sort of thing. And, it was sort of the unknown, unseen.
Yeah.
Curse. Having a curse as a villain is a really interesting way of doing it, because it does sort of leave you like, what actually is the villain? But,
and it's I put the curse is the villain, not a vengeful spirit. I was expecting to be some sort of vengeful spirit.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
No.
And I like that. I thought it was good. It was a good end. Seeing the ring or the grudge, it's kind of the same. It's that vengeful spirit almost. And it's like, well, the grudge is definitely the vengeful spirit. But it's like, I didn't want them to go down that exact same route. And I was like, I'm just waiting for it. It didn't come. And I'm like, yes! Yes!
Yeah. I put, if the villain was more defined, it would probably have lessened the tension. Yeah. Like the same thing I was saying with seeing the arms lessened it a bit. If it had been, now that's the villain and now it's after you, that would have just taken it out again. Yeah. Okay. Visuals. So the whole film was along the sort of found footage route with parts like with the arms bit, they did a replay. Yeah.
Which
is like
it's
putting
like
you into
paranormal investigation shows.
Which you don't see that. You just like leave it, you show it, and then that's it.
That was bold.
And things like at the start where they were playing the optical illusion things to sort of show that the mind plays on you. And the bit that really got me was at the end where she's back at the temple and they're asking everyone to chant with her, and the symbol is on the screen on a white background. And you're just staring at it, and it's got the words coming up. It's like surrounded by the incantation symbols, and it's got the translation coming up through it, which makes you focus on that middle point. And then it goes dark, and all you can see is the symbol.
I think it's the other way around. I think it was black with white writing, and it went white.
Did it?
Because you kind of see it imprinted on the white.
But it's just burned into your brain, and that was so clever. Just that, well, you've got it now.
Yeah, that was great.
It was so good. I might actually change my, because you haven't said anything, I think I'm actually going to change my score and put it up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The gun sort of after the bit with the beginning where they kind of tell you can change that wheel going around and whatnot. There was that little weird clip of that mouthful of teeth.
Yes.
And it was like, what the hell is that? And then that actually ends up being pretty much what is at the end.
Yeah.
When she lifts up the thing and she looks into the... Or she doesn't. She's
It's
got
like
the blindfold
almost
on.
a vortex.
Yeah. And it kind of reminded me a bit of Pennywise. Because that's when he opens his mouth in chapter 2 of it. You can see all the teeth in that, which is pretty cool. But you got the deadlights in his mouth. But
there's that bit... One of the other Ghostbusters, after going into the Forbidden Tunnel... It looks like there's things falling out of the mouth. I feel like that was teeth as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Growing.
Oh no, that was.
Or was that the?
That was the. No, that was. Oh god, what was it? There was someone there, and it was literally his teeth falling out.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the Ghostbusters after he came out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
I think.
So weird, just that thought of just teeth.
Yeah.
They're not things that you've got two sets.
Because even the care worker that was looking after Dodo and obviously helps the mother. Yeah. He's kind of like. And he just pulls a tooth out, and it's like, oh.
Because he's getting sicker as he's learning more about the curse.
Yeah.
That's just so interesting.
The camera glitches were good, because obviously the corruption of the data or whatnot, and the little, kind of like Choose or Die with the way they kind of glitches, I thought that was really well done. Yeah. They were believable, and it wasn't overly in your face all the time. Yeah. Which was good. But yeah, I did feel that there wasn't anything very memorable. Okay. There was nothing that was like, oh, that's going to stick with me. Even that vortex with all the teeth, that's not like, oh, that was unsettling, that's going to stick with me in terms of visuals.
Yeah, it's that symbol for me. Every now and then I'm still like, I know exactly what that symbol looks like, and that's going to be with me for a while.
Yeah, try it.
It was like a sort of one of those, and then there was something like there was one like that as well. Something along those lines. It was used a lot, the symbol. You're going to look it up now. It's
I am. So, yeah, what we'll do is we'll start on the next film and then we'll...
sort of dots and stuff around like that. Something vaguely along those lines.
I just want to point out that looks nothing like the symbol.
Fine. I have a bad memory, but yeah.
Okay, so the next film is actually the first one we watched, because we didn't quite know how we were going to do this at first, but in terms of the timeline, the way we're going to do this is Prey, which was released on the 5th of August on Hulu in America and Disney Plus in the UK, which is surprising, which is nice because they obviously own 20th Century Fox, or 20th Century Studios as they're calling it. The director was Dan Trachtenberg, and the main actors were Amber Mid-Thunder. What a name. Dakota Beavers, not so great, and Dane DeLiegro, and the runtime was 1 hour and 39 minutes. So it was nice, quite a punchy film.
Yes. Spook factor. It was definitely gore.
Yeah, oh yeah. You wouldn't expect anything less from a Predator film, would you?
But not from... It wasn't egregious or for gore's sake.
No.
Plenty of tension. I had some close. It started off closer than it ended up. Yeah, tension, which was aided by the sound.
Yeah.
And just this is a Predator film, so we know the villain, we know what's gonna happen, sort of, or like the concept of it. But it's like early in the timeline. Very early in the timeline. Is it the first in the timeline? Or?
No, I think in the terms of the timeline. Yes, it's the first in the timeline. This is like 1800s, 1700s.
So it was almost like the Predator is finding out what he's supposed to do in a way. So it wasn't really, really predictable.
I don't know if they were supposed to be finding out what he was supposed to be doing. It was. I get the feeling it was a juvenile, and he was kind of honing his craft. Yeah. On a lesser species or a lesser planet almost. Because you're not going to stick a child in against a xenomorph straight off the bat, because you're just going to get destroyed. Yeah. I felt that when you sort of see that first establishing shot of the Predator and it's starting to cloak, and you don't really see anything apart from it cloaking, there was a lot of tension in the scenes, because you're kind of looking in the background, looking for this shimmering outline of the Predator, and you're like, was that? And I kind of like that, and it was good. Yeah. There was great gore, especially with the snake, when he's just got ripping the skin off the snake. That was brutal. But yeah, it was quite visceral. In terms of the tension and the spook factor almost, because I don't think spook really applies to this movie, but like you said, I feel that when you see that first movie and it's called Prey, and when I saw it, I didn't know anything about it, and all of a sudden you see the 3 dots, and it's like, it's a Predator movie. I feel that it would have been great if they hadn't unveiled that at first.
Yeah.
And just like, oh, this is a film about some weird, like some strange entity hunting people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have the people who would watch it and be like, oh crap, it's a Predator film. And then word of mouth would get out and then it would blow up exponentially.
But they wanted those
Predator
fans in there to start.
Unfortunately, the internet has kind of killed stuff like that, which is a pain in the ass.
That's very true. Story-wise, really clever, I think. Just in terms of the general story, you saw the Predator basically watching the world and seeing, oh, this creature has killed this creature. He's a predator.
At the food chain, yeah.
So then going for that creature. And then building his way up and up and up until reaching humans. So it's quite interesting seeing that, because rather than starting from going for humans, that's why I sort of put about finding their way in a sense, that he was sort of building up to, or trying to figure out what the top predator was.
Yeah, I get you. But again, I think that still kind of leads into maybe a juvenile just kind of learning.
Yeah, that's fair. I thought it was really clever, the use of the orange petals, sort of foreshadowing that it would cool the blood, and then they can use that as, because obviously it's a heat sensing vision, use that later on. And the way that they use the traps, although there were some of the traps I felt like the predator would not have fallen for, but I mean, juvenile, I suppose, right? Yeah, foreshadowing without being too obvious. It's good. It's well written. I like it.
I think the one thing that bugged me was when she was hunting the rabbits. She kept throwing the axe, and she'd have to run over and grab it, and then throw it, and then grab it. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to tie a rope to my axe. I felt that was a bit janky.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of that.
Okay. Too much, like...
Yeah.
Building what the story needed.
Well, I've literally put on here, the axe rope was a bit far-fetched, like a low-budget Kratos.
A little bit. It is hard to believe that she'd be able to use that without cutting her arm off.
Yeah.
Or
if you throw an axe, it spins. The rope is going to coil up and twist and just get wrecked.
Yeah, and throwing it to make it hit in the right direction is one thing, but then pulling it back, there's not as much control.
If you've got an axe that's shut, we'll be an axe throwing, and sometimes the axe hits in, you've really got to wrench it. Doing that from a distance? Nah, mate. Nope.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nope. As you said, though, as part of the storyline, she kind of saves herself with it when stuck in the swamp.
Yeah.
But how strong would that rope have really been? Because it was just vines twisted round. I don't know if it would have been that strong. I did like that when she was in the swamp and absolutely covered in mud and she gets out and she sat there. Yeah. I was like, right, where is he? But he didn't show up.
No.
The predator did not show up. And I'm like, oh, that's refreshing.
Yeah, it's more, it's sort of a reference without
because you'd be rehashing the first movie, Using the targeting darts at the end, that was good.
Yes.
And obviously you've got to have the, if it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yes, you have to.
Yeah.
And it works in the setting. It's not like it was unnatural in a way. It wasn't forced. It worked well. Nice.
Yep.
Interesting use of language. Moving on to sound.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was because we obviously, the main characters, I think they started with the speech being in, I don't know what language it would be, but
Navajo maybe.
The native language of the people.
And
then they sort of transitioned into English so that the viewer could understand what they were saying. But then when they met the foreigners, so it was the French speaking white people.
Yeah.
And they just spoke French, no subtitles or anything, because you were in the position of the main character who would not understand what they were saying. So I thought that was really interesting. And obviously then they had the one that could speak the same language, who we could understand because she could understand. Thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of use of nature sounds and natural sort of music.
Yeah.
Which built into the setting and also built into the tension. Which was really good.
Yeah. I thought the sound mix was great. They really used the swan sound to a great effect.
Definitely. Acting, really good, excellent.
Yeah.
The main character in particular was brilliant, showing emotion and the hero's journey. I got nothing bad to say.
I thought it was great. The only bad thing I had was that she did get a bit whiny. at times, but again, that's the script, not the
Yeah.
acting. But I had to kind of mark the acting down a little bit because of it.
Fair enough.
Just because I feel that even though a script says something, if your character's supposed to be really strong, they're not going to be whiny and pissy about stuff.
Yeah.
Then you could probably go to the and go, look, I don't think this works this way. Because they can have input and their script will so yeah, I feel
quite
that
young though.
I feel that but I feel that whininess kind of took that a little bit out of that whole thing. So
fair enough. Villain, not just the Predator. At times you were rooting for Predator. Those are the invaders. I think.
I think they're French Canadian.
French Canadian. They were mean old people, and obviously using the natives as bait in a way to get the Predator, and he was just
move.
Yeah, but they weren't a threat, so they weren't targeted. So they all met untimely ends.
Yeah,
I think timely ends actually.
Yeah. I think.
There were some moments I think where the Predator did not feel like the ultimate hunter, so falling for the trap, that sort of thing. But leaning
fight
into
with the bear was pretty good as well.
Yeah, the fight with the bear was great. Leaning into the theory that it's a juvenile.
Yeah.
It was a good job of sort of building his strength gradually. So
the inexperience leading to experience.
Yeah. So I think it was a well done villains.
I like that. Obviously, the opening image, you see the ship, and then you just see the Predator cloaking. You don't see the actual Predator itself. It's just cloaking. It's like, okay, cool. And then you don't really get a full shot of it, even like until like maybe the last third of the movie, maybe. Like when he's cleaning the skull of the wolf he's killed, it's all in shadow.
Yeah.
You don't see any details of it. Even with the bear, when he's got the bear out and he rips it in half and the blood's coming down and it's obscuring the cloaking device, you still don't see any detail.
Nope.
And it's kind of just like, oh, I want to see this thing, and everyone just builds up the tension. It's like, I want to see.
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic. But again, that's probably a bit more visuals. But yeah, I liked it as well. The weapons weren't. It's like you see the 3 dots and you think plasma caster.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was the dart, the whole heat-seeking dart things, which was I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Or the tracking dart on the heat-seeking with the 3 dots slide.
Yes. Very good. Loved it. Visuals. Scenery is gorgeous.
Yeah,
oh my goodness, that setting.
So again, going back to what I said earlier about speaking to people, the blue tone in the fog, they did that with this, and I thought that was really well done. Yeah,
I did find some of the scenes, particularly there was where she came across all the dead buffalo. It was so dark, I felt like you couldn't really make out what was happening. She picked something, or I think Predator came in after and picked something up from the ground.
Yeah, I think that was a cigar.
Yeah, it sort of worked out afterwards that it was a cigar. But at the time, it's like, no, is it a bullet?
Yeah.
Or I don't know, no idea.
It kind of looked like maybe like a stick or something, because it was brown. It's like, what was that?
So I've marked visuals down a bit for that. But for the most part, the dark tones added to the feel and to the sort of peril. Yeah. Which, mostly good.
I like the end credits with the cave painting retelling the story.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then it's kind of teases a sequel as well, and it's like, ooh, okay. Yeah. Any fun thoughts on?
No, it's great. It's the first one we watched, and just set the mood for this whole tournament.
Well, that was film number 8, so that's the last one we're talking about in this particular video. Check it out now.
Wow. Yeah, so that's 8, and then we'll be watching the next 8 on our list, and we'll do another similar video to this one.
With that one, when we've obviously gone through, we will do a third video, and that will be the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and the finals.
Yeah, so we'll be pitting films against each other, the battle to the death.
Yep.
Which will be good. So at that point, we'll probably go mainly based on our initial thoughts, because some of them we're going to know for sure what was better, but then if we need to go into what we actually scored each one, then we'll do that. So look forward to that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like the video if you did, and leave a comment if any of these films that you have particular opinions about, or theories. Do you have different theories about what was going on in Incantation? That's such an interesting one. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be notified when we drop new videos. You can also follow us on socials. Our link tree is in the description below, and we'll post stuff when we're dropping videos on there, so you can see exactly what's going on. And chat, talk to us, let us know what you want to see. I think until next time,
stay spooky.
Bye.